what do I want to share tonight? And all of you come from different walks of life. You have different businesses, different levels of experience. And I said, well, I'm not going to teach you to build a funnel tonight. I'm not going to teach you to go into the nitty-gritty of tech and scalability and automation and building a brand. I'm not really going to share that. So what I decided to share this evening was a part of my unique story and what brought me to this point today. And my intention with that is that I want all of you to leave this evening with a little something from what I have to share. It may not be my whole story. It may not be the biggest moment that I share. It might just be the little one thing that you can take away from this evening. The second part of this as well is that all of us have a story. All of us come from different walks of life. We all have a very unique story. And I really want to highlight that. I want to highlight the importance of expression and really owning who you are and where you are going, where you've come from, humble beginnings over here, and where I am today. And I think the biggest gift is like we get to take with us all parts of where we've come from. And sometimes we'll look back and we go, that doesn't really make sense with what I do now. But if we learn to actually make sense of our past and bring that into the now, I think that's really powerful. So for those that don't know, if I have a bit of a funny accent, I grew up in Sweden, and I used to be really ashamed for my accent. Now I hope it never goes away. Now I'm like trying to sound as Swedish as possible because that's what makes me different. And I moved here in 2010, and I grew up in a small country town, and that's my brother over there. And very humble beginnings. And I grew up dancing, and dancing has been a big part of my life. And now when I reflect, I don't really, actually I do dance. I dance on reels sometimes. I do dance. I dance at my retreat. I do dance a little bit still. But I don't dance the way I used to. And sometimes I go, well, running a business is actually nothing to do with me as a dancer. But what I look back on was actually what dancing brought me was learning to tell a story without actually saying a single word. It taught me charisma, energy, expression, music, the perfect light, and being able to articulate a story without actually saying a single thing. And really what I've taken from that, when you then apply words to your story becomes even more powerful. So I want you to think about this for you right now. Who are you if you were not allowed to use your voice? How do you express yourself if you could not say a single word? Through clothing, through your energy, through your body language, through your music, the people that you surround yourself with. That we all actually have a story, right? So I think about that. What did dancing actually bring me, other than being all right at dancing on reels? It taught me that our stories that we share, that I don't have to say a single thing, yet I say so much right now. The moments of stillness when we say nothing, those are the moments that are so potent because I am moving my energy through all of you without saying a single word. And when we do infuse words to our story, that becomes even more powerful. And then I moved to Australia in 2010, broken English, fresh off the boat with $3,000 in the bank. And I remember walking up the street of King's Cross in Sydney. Has anyone ever been to King's Cross? Me too. And I had no idea what King's Cross was all about. But I walked up there with my suitcase and I thought, where have I landed? This is not what they told me Australia was like. And I see this hostel and it says deluxe hostel. I said, that's me. Perfect. I said, I'm not sharing with anyone. I just need a room. And then I walked in. I said, I need to get a job. So $3,000 very quickly became $2,000 and then $1,000 and then I had to get a job. So I went in And I thought, everyone tells me that I can get a job as a bartender. Perfect. 18 years old, here we go. Never poured a beer in my entire life. But I walked in and I said, and the guy goes, "Can you just pour me a schooner?" I said, "Sorry." He goes, "Oh, can you pour me a schooner of VB?" I said, "Which one you want me to pour?" And I had no idea what I was doing. And that was probably the worst trial of my life. And I thought, far out, Rebecca. You've just pushed yourself too much. Like, bring it back. You could have cleared tables or been in the kitchen or done something. He called me 3 days later saying, "You got the job." He goes, "Your personality," he said, "will be a great asset to our team." Thank you so much. And I said, "I'll take that." And then I learned to pour beers over time. But I said, great, my personality will be a great asset to the team. And as I was navigating my way through Sydney, I started to see all these incredible houses. And I said, one day, very far away from it, but one day I'll own one of those homes. But I thought, if I can't own a home right now, maybe how can I get myself in an environment where I'm least in a home like that? And the answer was real estate. So I put together a resume and I started to apply for jobs in real estate. And I got a phone call saying, "Can you come in for an interview?" And I went and bought my first corporate dress. And I went in with my broken English, went into the office, and this big guy walked in a big suit. He shook my hand so hard, he almost broke my hand. And we sat down and he goes, "So can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, Rebecca?" He goes, "I'm really confused. You know you've applied for a job in real estate. Here he says that you're a dancer and you're a bartender." I was like, oh, fuck, here we go. And I said, "That's right." And I had this moment of stillness. And we looked at each other. And I said, "I think you should hire me because I am a dancer." He goes, "Please explain yourself." And I said, "I have stood on stages hundreds and hundreds of times. And I have been in a dance studio and I've practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. That have really instilled a set of work ethics in me and values in me that I think that I can really bring to this agency." And he was still very confused. I said, "The perfectionist in me is very loud. So it doesn't actually matter what job you'll give me. I know that I'll always deliver. And I know how to connect with people, and I know how to bring my charisma and my energy." I said, "I may not have the experience of selling homes." I said, "But I live in a home. And I can tell a story without using a single word. So imagine, even though I have broken English, imagine when I do add words to it or when I add meaning to it." And I said, "Just give me a chance. And also, I've heard that you real estate agents like to drink." I said, "So on a Friday afternoon, can whip up a good cocktail." And I left and I thought, I stuffed up. And he called me a few days later and he said, "I've never met anyone in my entire career that had that level of confidence with no experience. You're hired." And that was my way in. And those 2 moments were quite big for me because I realized I had me. And I had no experience, but I chose to put myself in places where I knew that I would shit myself because I was so nervous. Where I would be so pushed out of my comfort zone. Where I felt like, can I really be here? Am I really good to be standing up here talking right now? Am I really good enough to get a job in real estate? But I made a decision that I was. And in order for us to do that, we actually need to know what we bring to the table and what we believe we are really good at when it comes to our expression. I didn't have the experience that they were looking for, but I chose to see myself as a whole human and realize that I had other things that agency could really value from. And I want all of you to feel that I also have that within me. You also have that within you. Then I started my first business, had a few other jobs after that, and I started my first business in 2015, which was a marketing and business agency specifically for fitness franchises. And that company grew very, very quickly. And we had clients in 7 different countries. I have a beautiful team of staff members, and then COVID happened. And we lost 95% of revenue overnight. And I had just had my second child. I'm like, how many kids do I have? My second child. So when COVID happened, I was in government grants. But I knew in that moment I had me. And I always had the ability to pivot. And I was willing to share my story of what I was navigating by, number one, having such declining revenue in my company. I started to share that online very openly, and my perspective on that and how I was willing to pivot versus just being stuck. And I also started to analyze what was happening with other businesses, and the businesses that I saw did extremely well in COVID because they pivoted like that. They didn't see the problems, they pivoted and started to see solutions. So I simply shared that story online, and I didn't think anything of it. And all of a sudden, someone reached out to me and they said, Rebecca, I've lost my job due to COVID. I want to start my own business. Can you help me? I sure can. Another person reached out, hey, I had to pivot in my business. I've heard you've been talking about this online. Do you think you can help me? Of course I can help you. Hey, Rebecca, hey, Rebecca, hey, Rebecca, hey, Rebecca. And I had all these clients that just wanted to work with me simply because I chose to share my story and my perspective on things. Then I ran into a problem, and I like to call it a high-quality problem because I had that many clients, and I chose as a mother only to work 15 to 20 hours per week. So now I had a problem servicing all of these clients, so I had a scalability problem. Again, I have to think differently. That's when I launched into my first ever group program. And that program on its own generated $500,000 in the first year. And I cut back my hours, and I only work 15 hours per week. And I'm say again. Woo! No. And I was reflecting on that. And there are 2 parts that I want to share, and I just believe there's a few mothers in the room here. Has anyone ever experienced the feeling like you are operating from like 2nd or 3rd gear, and you know you have more in you, but the season of life that you're in actually doesn't let you go 5th or 6th gear? And that can cause a bit of friction and frustration sometimes. Then you're like, fuck, I know I have more in me. Why am I not fucking sending it? Right? And then you're like, but I fucking love my kids so much, and I want to be present, I want to be the best mom. But you're like, I've got this fucking vision, I want to send it. And now I'm doing business in 3rd gear, and you're like, I know I have more in me. You're just not seeing it yet. You know where I'm going with this? Right? The biggest lesson in that for me was that I chose to completely surrender to the season of life that I'm in. So instead of saying, this is fucking shit, I wish I had 80 hours a week to work on my dreams, I said, I have 15 hours per week to work on my dreams. I'm going to make every second count. I leave no room for procrastination in my life. 0. And the reason for that is because I have clarity of what I need to do within the time that I have. So instead of showing up from a lack mindset of never having enough time, I'm like, I have 15 hours, watch me go. And I got so strategic of what was required from me in that moment. And then my business sat on about 30K months for quite a few months. And I had this feeling, I'm like, I just know if, as soon as I put the foot on the gas, we're gonna explode. But I had to be okay with not doing that. I had the feeling of knowing I can do more, but I was okay with it because I honored the season that I was in. There is no rush. Whatever timeline that you are on right now is the exact right timeline that you should be on. You're not behind. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And I think once we come to terms with that and become one with that, we feel less stressed. And when we start to operate from feeling less stressed, we start to operate from a state of overflow. That it's not a must, it's I get to. And then I did a meditation about 2 years ago now. And I sat in a meditation and I said, what is the answer? What's the answer to success? And then I had a little saying that dropped into my mind that was, internal stillness, external speed is the fastest road to success. Internal stillness, external speed is the fastest road to success. Wrote it down and I sat with that for a little while, and then I went a little bit deeper and I said, what does that actually look like for me? What does it mean to operate from a state of internal stillness, external speed? It's a huge contrast. How can I make sure that my internal state is completely anchored and calm whilst I'm moving with speed in my external world? Well, then I started with the external speed. And the only way we can move with speed is if we have clarity. If we don't know where we are going, how can we actually accelerate and move with speed? So clarity was number one for me. What is this next chapter going to look like for me? And I got so clear on it. And then I reversed engineer it. 12 months, 6 months, 3 months, down to 6 weeks. And the way I'm operating my business is in 6 weeks blocks. And then I ask myself, and I simply half it. I start with my 12 months, I go down to 6, and I half whatever was on my 12-month goal, I half it down to 6, and I half it again, and I half it again. And then I'm down to 6 weeks. And then I ask myself this, how many projects are in this for me to complete the 6 weeks? How many tasks goes under each project? Who needs to do them, and who do I need to become in the process? And then I start to move. No procrastination, no clarity. I never come into the office and I sit and I said, I wonder what I should focus on today. Laser-like focus. And then I went on the other side with my internal stillness. And I'm sure that most of us have experienced overwhelm, procrastination, frustration, nervous system being a bit, how are you going? And the answer that really dropped in for me was, I want to feel held, which is a very unfamiliar feeling as us driven women in business, because often we are the ones that are holding everybody around us. We're the strong ones. And I said, what would it feel like for me to actually be held in my business? I went funnel. I want to have a business that can run when I'm actually not on. I want to be able to make money when I'm making pancakes with my children. I want to be able to impact people even though I may not be in a room like this every single day. So what do I need in order for that to happen? I need scalability. I need a funnel. I need tech and automation and a team that really aligns with my values and my vision. And I went to work. This is what we need to do. This is what we need to build out. Here is the clarity in terms of my path of what I'm wanting to create. And then I started to move. And I felt like my worlds were kind of, my internal stillness and external speed, they kind of came together as one. And if I'm reflecting on that today, I can wholeheartedly say that I nailed it. I look at the way I'm showing up in my business now, and it gets to come from a place of overflow, simply because I ask myself that one question: how do I want to feel when I show up in my business every single day? I want to have clarity. I want to have certainty, confidence, and I also want to have the ability to show up exactly the way I am. No one else. And my worlds just came closer and closer and closer. And then a few interesting things started to happen when I experienced this incredible overflow in my business and in my life, that I had beautiful Tane reach out. Rebecca, do you want to host a Women in Business event? And I remember driving down to Byron Bay and I got the message. And I was like, I wonder if she knows. We did not know each other. I don't even know that I've come in here. I've come in here to shop. But I must have put my name or my number in the system. Oh, there we go. Love your stalking, great. And I drove down to Byron to meet up with a friend, and I got this message, and it said, oh, do you want to host a Women in Business event? And I sat in that moment and I go, this would not have come about if I did not have the spaciousness in my life to call it in, because I'm a big believer in energetic protection. If your cup is just full of stuff, not necessarily overflowed, like your cup is full, like if it's full of stuff and you energetically don't have room to call things in, I choose to believe that the universe is actually protecting you because you don't have the spaciousness to hold it yet. And that's okay. But if you feel like there is more unfolding for you and you want to call in more things, I want you to ask yourself, what needs to happen so I can energetically be open to call those things in? And you might start to think, I need to move a few things around. And one needs to shift for me in order for that to happen. And then I had another opportunity, and another opportunity, and I'm feeling this spaciousness in my life, and I want to share this with you because I didn't always feel this way. I feel a sense of overflow that I get to be here tonight. The clients that I work with, I get to work with them. The opportunities that I call in, it comes from such space of overflow simply because I ask myself, what is the answer for me? And it may be different because we're not all going to operate exactly the same. It may be different, and that's okay. But if you have this feeling that there is more coming your way, I want you to sit with that and ask yourself what needs to happen so that I can energetically have the spaciousness to call that in. And since then, I'm attracting an incredible group of women to come and share this evening with me. Whilst my business is running on autopilot. And the path I want to take next, that it is a moment, a messy moment in business, where you work on things that I like to call unmeasurable results. When you are building out the messy part of your business, the really solid foundation, that it may not show up in numbers and clients and, customers and sales, but it may show up as progress. And sometimes it's hard to track that. And what I see with working with so many people is that sometimes we get very uncomfortable if we can't track our results. If we can't put a number on the effort that we are putting in, we start to doubt that it's not working. So I want to share with you that the messy moments of building out a beautiful foundation, which is your masterpiece, your creation, your business, as you're building that out, there's going to be moments where you're not going to see results. But then you'll wake up one day when, in my instance, your funnel is built. You roll out of bed and you have 10 Stripe notifications on your phone, and you get to work with the most incredible people. It was a lot of work to get to that point, but I trusted myself and I honored that process of allowing the timeline and the unfolding to take place.